Pleased to have on the Rich Eisen Draft Special, the man of the hour of the National Football League and, of course, the NFL Draft, Commissioner Roger Goodell. Good to see you, sir.
Great to be with you, Rich.
Thank you very much for letting us in your office. The draft, what does it mean to you that it's time to welcome in some new blood into the National Football League?
Well, I think it's great for these young men. You know, it's a realization of a dream. They've all worked hard for it. And, you know, that moment when you're selected by a team and you come out on the stage is a great moment for me to be a part of it for just a fraction of a moment. It's also great for our teams and our fans because it's, you know, every team gets better. It's probably the only day of the year every team gets better, and that's a good thing.
As for the television product, there's all this talk in the last couple of years about the fan experience at home watching this thing. Tipping of picks by the networks, showing kids on telephones, that's out now. Tweeting about it, that's stopped now. Why do you want that?
So I think the biggest change we made was 3 or 4 years ago when we reduced the length of the picks. And it really helped us keep some momentum going, and it was more entertaining. As far as the most recent change, I think was to keep the suspense. You know, that moment of when someone is selected and to make the announcement, that was something that our clubs thought was the right thing to do, and our television partners.
Welcome to prime time. The season begins tonight, so let's kick it off.
What if it comes back that fans want it, like, immediately on Twitter?
Well,
they want that as opposed to watching a television product that isn't immediate enough for them.
We always listen to our fans. It's something we'll have to consider, but actually the reaction we got last year was very good.
What about rotating the draft to different cities? Are you considering that?
It's tough to walk away from New York, quite honestly. It's become a real staple here in the city, and you know it is the #1 market, so it brings a lot of attention. But we've talked about, since we moved to 2 primetime nights, whether you could take the second night and move that to another city.
What about rotating other events that the league holds, like the Combine, for instance?
The Combine primarily is to make sure that the clubs get the right information, and that's the medical information and the physical information from the workouts. And that's a great setup in Indianapolis. So while we want to make our events bigger, we want to invite people in. We're inviting fans now into the Combine, primarily to see you in the 40-yard dash.
Thank you.
But it is it's become a great event for fans. If there's an opportunity and we can do it properly, we might.
So let's talk about other issues going on in the NFL right now that's in your inbox. HGH testing, do you think that's going to be in place in time for the playing season this year?
I sure hope so, Rich. It takes 2 to reach an agreement. It's good for the players. I think it's the right thing to do for the game, and it's the right message for all of our fans and young people who play sports.
Do you think if it doesn't happen by the playing season this year, Capitol Hill might get more involved?
Whether they ramp up their efforts or not, I don't know. They've made a lot of noises about that. But the reality is we should take care of our own house. We should do this on our own initiative.
Oh, he knocked an Eagles helmet off. A knockout punch. Kurt Coleman ends up without his helmet, without his mouthpiece, without his chin strap.
And half the padding that was inside of it.
With rule changes, new rule changes or new rule emphasis, running backs now, out of the tackle box, if they lower their head, use the crown of their helmet to hit a player, that this is now a violation. And a lot of fans took this as another instance of the NFL potentially softening the game and also taking it a step further away from your so-called father's NFL.
You run with your chin up, you face contact with your eyes up like that, you will get hurt.
I'm not a fan of this rule at all. I think it crosses a line, and while we all love safety, at some point, football's got to be football.
It's not unusual that the NFL has made changes and taken certain techniques out of the game over several decades. The head slap used to be an accepted part of the game until we outlawed it in the rules because it was something that we thought led to unnecessary injuries. So we're going to continue to do that and not make apologies for that. What we owe the game and what we owe these players is the safest game as possible, removing techniques that we know can lead to injuries, and get back to the fundamentals of football, Rich. The game was never meant to tackle with the helmet. The helmet is for protection. It is not to be used as a weapon.
The owner of the Cleveland Browns, Jimmy Haslam, has his name and his company have been accused by the FBI of fraudulent behavior. What is your thought on what's happening with the ownership in Cleveland right now?
Well, it's a difficult time for Jimmy and his family and his company. He'll be keeping us informed if there are any developments on it. In the meantime, I know that he's serious about the Cleveland Browns and doing everything he can to restore that team. And he's also very serious about his Pilot J company. He wants to make sure that that's successful and operated with integrity, and that's something that I believe he will do.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about you that fans hold?
I have no idea.
You must hear some sort of, I guess, critique of your...
I talk to the fans all the time. I mean, what they spend most of the time talking about is the game. That's what they love. Anything that's a distraction from that, whether it's labor negotiations, litigation, business issues, keep it out of there. They want to focus on how's the game going to get better.
What is your most...
Were you sitting in my chair before I got in here, by the way?
No. I definitely looked through some things. I hope that's okay if things are a little out of order. But what is your most prized possession in here?
Well, other than the pictures of my family,
of course,
is the trophy, the Lombardi Trophy, which I believe is sitting behind me.
Yes, it is.
And then that shield up on the wall. Everything we do is to improve that shield and to improve the image of that shield and to protect it.
And then eventually you'd get down to my book that's on your shelf.
Your book is there. Did you notice that?
Please.
I'm sure you took a few pictures of that.
That was the first thing I looked for.